Dear students, welcome to Banglar Shikha Classroom, an endeavor of Paschim Bongo Somogro Shikha Mission under the School Education Department, Government of West Bengal. I am Amit Sen Mojumdar, Headmaster, Jodhpur Park Boys School, Kolkata. Today we are discussing The Price of Bananas, a short story included in your class 9 English Bliss textbook written by Mulk Anand. In our first part, we have done half of the story, and now we are going to complete the full story, and we are also going to discuss some questions as well as their answers, and we are also going to discuss some grammatical questions which can be asked from this passage. And since this story will be included in your third summative exam or the annual examination, which is coming up, so I urge all of you to pay close attention to this video. So let's jump right in to the second part. Now, as you have seen, in our last lesson, that the businessman was being asked by this fruit vendor to pay the price of bananas. What price did the fruit vendor ask for? He only asked for 2 annas. Now, what did the businessman do? The businessman offered 1 anna for the fruit vendor. That too, he threw that anna contemptuously towards the fruit vendor onto the platform. The porter who had carried those pieces of luggage for him, he asked for 4 annas, and he had expected a bigger amount, and he was only paid 4 annas by the Sethji. So the businessman threw this anna towards the fruit vendor contemptuously onto the platform. The train was about to depart. The vendor looked in through the compartment window, and he pleaded politely, Sethji, not rob the poor. Jaja, take rest. The Sethji scowled at him. Scowled means he blasted out angrily, and very angrily he spoke to the vendor. So there, here the moral conflict is being shown. The generosity of the poor, the vendor who helps without being asked, and the arrogance of the Sethji. He is so arrogant. He is calling names to these people. He is abusing these poor people. And actually, this vendor was instrumental in recovering his embroidered cap from the monkey. If the vendor had not done so, the Sethji would have faced lots of humiliation. And he was also very angry at the monkey also. He was shouting in disgust. But obviously, you can see the Sethji has no gratitude. And he is throwing this coin contemptuously towards the fruit vendor on the platform. The train had begun to move. The vendors pleading, these are having no impact on the Sethji. He was looking out of the window actually. The Sethji was looking out of the window at the goods train on the other side. The train had passed the whole length of the platform, and the frustrated vendor finally dropped off. So this is the crux of the story, the conflict between the rich and the poor. The generosity, the kindness of the poor people is in stark contrast with the arrogance of the rich Sethji. He is denying fair payment, and he is insulting the people who are serving him. And the Sethji's act of throwing this anna, it's a very trivial amount. 16 annas make 1 rupee. So 1 anna is a very trivial amount. And his act of throwing an anna, it symbolizes his utter contempt for the poor. The vendor's pleading and the passenger's sympathy, it highlights the injustice and humiliation faced by honest, hardworking people. Let us do some questions and answers, which are typically very important. And these are the type of questions which will be asked in your actual question paper. So let me give out the questions without the answers. So here is the question slide. So you can take a screenshot of these and copy the questions in your text, in your exercise copy, and try answering them. Meanwhile, you can pause the video. So try answering these questions on your own. Of course, you can keep your textbook open. That's the beauty of English as a subject. If you keep your textbook open in any other exam, that is sacrilege. But in English, you can actually look at the text is actually provided by the question paper setter. That is the beauty of the English. You should take advantage of it. At the same time, you should always, have this habit of writing answers on your own, doing the grammar exercises meticulously, practicing the writing skill exercises which have been given in your Bliss textbook, so that you get a good grasp and command over the English language. So, I hope you have written down the questions. Now let's discuss the answers. So the first question is, there is a typo here. It will be all ALL. All the passengers in the compartment had sympathy. So this is an incomplete sentence. You have to complete the sentence. So what will be the correct answer? All the passengers in the compartment had sympathy for the fruit vendor. Next, the frustrated vendor finally dropped off when. So the answer will be when the train had passed the whole length of the platform. The frustrated vendor finally dropped off when the train had passed the whole length of the platform. So these are completion type questions. You have to base your answer from the portion which is quoted in the question paper. The textual part which is quoted in the question paper, you have to read that text given in the question paper and base your answers based on your reading of the quoted text. You should not write anything which you have memorized. Okay, so now come to the next type of questions which can be asked in your exams. That's the true or false type questions along with supporting sentence. So now I would like to point out something very important here. So these kind of questions, they will carry 2 marks each. 2 marks each these questions are carrying. Now 1 mark is allocated for identifying whether the statement is true or false. A box will be provided and you have to write T if it is true or F if it is false. And then there will be space for supporting sentence. Now what is a supporting sentence? Supporting sentence means, suppose you are denoting a particular statement as true. Which line in the quoted text, the text is already provided to you in the question paper itself. Which line in the quoted text helped you to arrive at the conclusion that the statement is true or the statement is false? You have to write that line. Okay, you should not come up with sentences on your own here. You have to quote the line from the text. So that is a mistake some students make. So I would like to warn you about this. So we have to actually quote the text or phrases which helped you to arrive at the conclusion if the statement is true or false. Now let's do this as an illustrative example. Let's do this together so that you can understand it better. The rich man thanked the boy politely for returning his cap. Now obviously this is false. Now how do I know this? Which line in the text helped me to arrive at this conclusion? Just take a moment and Find it out for yourself. Okay, so the businessman threw an anna towards him on the platform. Threw an anna towards him at the platform. This is an act of contempt. He is contemptuously throwing the anna. So, this is a line which you will quote in support of the statement that this is a false statement. So, you will write in the box that this is false, and then you will write this line: the businessman threw an anna towards him on the platform. Next, the businessman was fair to the fruit vendor. Again, this is false, but which line in the text shows that? So let's look for that line. So there is this line in the text which says that the whole amusing episode had ended in a bitter sense of grievance against the rich businessman who had been so hard to the generous-hearted fruit vendor. So you can quote part of this sentence. The rich businessman who had been so hard to the generous-hearted fruit vendor. You can quote part of this sentence in support of your answer that the statement is false. Now, if you do that, you will be given full marks. Now, remember one thing: if you get this true or false incorrect, means if you are not able to, suppose a statement is given and the correct answer will be true and you have marked it false, then even if you get the supporting sentence correct, the teacher will award no marks to you. So remember, first you have to identify whether the given statement is true or false correctly. If you do that correctly, then only the supporting sentence in support of your answer will be awarded marks. Otherwise, if you get the sentence wrong in the first instance, then you won't be given any marks if you get the supporting sentence correct. Clear? So now let's move into the third type of questions. This is a chart type. So one statement will be given and you have to come up with the reason, and you have to write this reason in a complete independent sentence. And sometimes, vice versa can happen. You will be given the reason and you have to come up with the statement. So let's do this together. The narrator drew a cartoon of Setji. What is the reason? This is an interesting question because the answer is not directly given in the text. You have to analyze the text and come up with the answer on your own. The narrator drew a cartoon of Setji. The reason you have to write in a single sentence. So I have discussed this later in detail, why the narrator drew a cartoon of the Setji. So then you will be provided with ample hints to write the answer on your own. Let us actually we have not done this part of the story. So let me complete this story and then we will come to this slide and discuss the statement and reason chart type questions and the answers. So now the train had begun to move. The fruit vendor first ran along with it, then got on to the footstep and clung to the window pleading. But Setji had turned his head away. He was looking out of the window at the goods train on the other side. The train had passed the whole length of the platform and the frustrated vendor finally dropped off. So you can see the Setji was totally avoiding this poor fruit vendor because he was not willing to pay that extra anna which the vendor had asked for. Now the Setji was aware that he was rich and the passengers in the compartment, they were watching all these things. So Setji was aware that the passengers were watching his move, how he is behaving with the fruit vendor who volunteered to rescue his cap from the monkey, how he is treating him, the fruit vendor. So he felt that he needed to justify himself to the other passengers. So that's what he does. He says he turned round to all of us and began to justify himself. If he did not want to help me to get my cap back, he should not have offered the monkey the bananas. I didn't ask him to help. So that's what the Setji says to the passengers, that he did not ask for the fruit vendor's help. He came to help the Setji on his own. So he wanted to justify himself to the passengers that the way he behaved to the fruit vendor, it was not unjust. So this answers the question to our which I had asked in the previous slide. He wanted to prove to the other passengers that he had not behaved in an unjust manner with the fruit vendor. Now the story continues. Now the narrator, he feels that all other passengers had sympathy for the fruit vendor. The whole amusing episode of this monkey, coming in and then snatching the cap from the vendor, sorry, the rich businessman, and then the fruit vendor, he rescues the cap with the bananas in his right hand and coaxing the monkey to come down and take the bananas and return the cap. This was a very amusing episode. Everybody was enjoying it. But this had ended in a very bitter sense of grievance, because the rich businessman, he had been so harsh and so mean-minded, towards the very kind fruit vendor. Now, what the narrator did here, it's given in the picture. I drew a cartoon of Setji and showed my drawing to all the other passengers except him. Everyone laughed. The more we laughed, Setji became the more uncomfortable. So now that is the way the narrator took his revenge. All of us were feeling that this Setji must be punished because of the way he behaved with this generous hearted fruit vendor. But the narrator, he tackled this situation in a very rational manner. He did not enter into any direct confrontation with the Setji. Setji was older, he was rich, powerful perhaps. So he drew a cartoon of the Setji and showed it to the other passengers. At the same time, he deliberately didn't show the cartoon to the Setji. Now everybody were laughing, and the Setji was totally kept in the dark. He didn't know what was happening, but he could have an inkling of an idea that they were talking about him or they were mocking him. Maybe there was something in this in the drawing which ridiculed him. All these conjectures Setji was making, that was his that was the punishment which the Setji got in the end, the ridicule of all the passengers in the compartment. So I have discussed here in detail, and so that you can understand the story better, because it is very important for you to understand. So after saying, why did the narrator draw a cartoon of the Setji? After seeing Setji's rude and greedy behavior, the poor are not greedy. The rich, they are greedy. And that is the story of, that is a story which you can relate to in our days also. You can see, people who are, who belong to the, who are underprivileged, they do not have any greed. They are kind, they are generous, and the people who are rich, they are greedy, they are mean-minded, they behave in a very rude and offensive manner with the have-nots. So whatever Mulk Anand wrote probably 80 years back, it is a travesty of fate that the same situation is prevalent in India or for that matter anywhere in the world, the rich always seem to have the last laugh. So the narrator felt angry and disappointed, just like most of the other passengers, but he couldn't confront Setji directly. Setji was older, powerful, and not someone you could argue with easily. So instead of fighting, the narrator used humor and art as protest. And you can also do the same thing if you feel that injustice or wrong is being done to somebody. I will advise you not to confront, not to enter into direct confrontation, but instead you can use humor and art as a means of protesting against that act. So the narrator did just that. He drew a cartoon of Setji, maybe showing him as proud, selfish, or ridiculous to express his disapproval. So in simple words, this cartoon which the narrator had drawn, it was his silent way of saying, you may be rich, but your behavior makes you look small. So we're at the end of the story. So what is the moral of the story? The story reminds us that real wealth lies not in money but in kindness and gratitude. The poor fruit seller's generosity contrasts with the rich man's selfishness. Mulk Anand urges us to respect and empathize with the underprivileged. Now, we'll do some grammar questions from the price of bananas, which are important for your exam. So the first question is change of voice. The rich man brushed the dust off his cap and put it back on his head. What will be the answer? So for the purpose of revision, I will be sometimes I will be telling you the rules of grammar. So here what you will do is mark the subject, verb and object, and interchange the object and the subject, and verb you have to change from active to passive voice. The rich man brushed the dust off his cap and put it back on his head. Here the answer will be the dust was brushed off the cap by the rich man and it was put back on his head. So because this is a compound sentence and there are two parts to it, the rich man brushed the dust off his cap and then again the rich man put it back on his head. You have to change both the parts from active to passive. So after interchanging the object and subject, you will arrive at this answer. The dust was brushed off the cap by the rich man and it was put back on his head. Next, change into indirect speech. Now, a number of questions are also being given in the Bliss textbook, this textual grammar on direct and indirect speech. I urge all of you to solve those questions very carefully and also do a number of questions from any grammar book of your choice on direct and indirect speech as well as voice change, because do at least 15 to 20 questions on voice change and narration. These will strengthen your grammar base, and you do these labor in class 9, and voice change and narration, they are included in your class 10 English syllabus. They are part of your 11 and 12 English syllabus. So class 9 is the perfect class to build your base on English grammar. So devote more time to English grammar. Do a lots of exercises on narration, voice change. Now what will be the answer to this? narrator said to the boy, how much were the bananas? Now, because these questions, this is a question sentence. Now, question sentence means we have to use the verb asked. The narrator asked the boy. Now, because this is a WH question sentence, it begins with a WH word, how. So, you have to keep that WH word. You remember? And then you have to change accordingly. So, the answer will be, the narrator asked the boy how much the bananas were. Next, you have to fill in with the correct preposition. The boy stood. The answer will be on. The boy stood on the platform smiling and waving. Next, combine into a single sentence using though. So, and can you tell me what kind of a sentence it will be after you combine these two simple sentences into a single sentence? It will be a complex sentence. So, though the boy was poor, he was always cheerful. And the answer to that question will be, oh, I have already told you, it will be on. Next, change the degree of comparison. The narrator was kinder than the rich man. Now, changing the degree of comparison, this is also a very important type of question which is asked in class 9 as well as in Madhyamik exams also. So, identify the degree, it is in comparative degree. So, you have to convert it into positive degree of comparison, that will be kind. But then again you have to rewrite the sentence so that this adjective kind fits into the sentence and the meaning of the sentence will not be changed. That this is very important. If you change the meaning, then even if you get the adjective correctly, even if you write the adjective correctly, marks won't be awarded. So in this case, because there is comparison between two objects, superlative degree is not being considered at all. So there will be only positive degree of comparison. And the answer will be, the rich man was not as kind as the narrator. The rich man was not as kind as the narrator. Rewrite using to, T-O-O-2. The train had picked up speed, the boy could not catch it. So the answer will be, the train had picked up too much speed for the boy to catch it. Next, change into a negative sentence without changing the meaning. Now note this thing very carefully. In this question, it is given that change into a negative sentence without changing the meaning. Sometimes this phrase will not be included in your question. Change into a negative sentence. Then also, if the meaning changes, you will be getting a 0. So mind it, whenever you are doing transformation of sentences, the meaning should not change. This is a very important point. The meaning should not change at all. The boy stood quietly, still smiling. What will be the answer to this? The boy stood quietly, still smiling. And the answer to this question will be, the boy did not make any noise. He only smiled. So that brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video lecture. For further reading, I would suggest, I've made a list of stories and I put them down for you in this slide. If you have the time, once your annual exams are over, I'll be glad if you can read the stories which I have suggested. This same story of love, sacrifice, empathy, imagination, these short stories. And do read Postmaster by Rabindranath Tagore. It's very important to read, Bengali literature as well as English literature, because the stories will teach you more lessons about life. They will enrich you. They will make you into a better human being. That is what all of us should aim at, becoming a better human being. That should be the true purpose of education. In this world of AI and machine learning, you should not turn into a machine. And it is these stories, these beautiful passages which are included in your Bliss textbook, and also you form this habit of reading storybooks. Throw away your mobiles and tabs. Concentrate on, reading storybooks. There's this beautiful smell on new storybooks. Have you smelt it? Once your annual exams are over, read storybooks. That's the best gift which you can give to yourself. Thank you, my dear students, for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed this video lecture as much as I did in delivering it.